right, and we're live. Hello,
Hi,
Father.
everybody.
What
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome from Detroit.
what are you doing in good old Detroit?
We just had a couple of training sessions here that we had to do, and so we've got that all complete. And tomorrow morning, getting ready to head back and get back to work.
All right. Well, as many of you can see, this isn't our normal show. At Father is on the road, so we're gonna go a little bit shorter today. We're gonna just go to the hour mark, and hopefully our connection stays stable. Last time we did this, we had a little bit of a challenge, but so far things are looking good for tonight, and we'll try to get to as many questions as we possibly can. Before somebody in the chat reminds me, make sure to like, share, subscribe, and do other wonderful things. And we'll be back next week with our normal show, which includes OQA Bingo. We're going to start off the show today with, well, you wanted to say something about some recent events.
Yes, probably everybody knows that the new Pope was elected, Pope Leo the 14th. So that's good news there, and we're all looking forward to see and hopefully prayerfully a continued relationship between Bartholomew, our Orthodox Church, and hopefully the greater churches too. The other patriarchates like Moscow and all that, to have a good relationship with the new Pope. And I guess congratulations that. This is, I think, the first pope from the United States, and fairly young at 69. So we offer our prayers that he be able to successfully take on the mantle of the head of the Catholic Church as the Patriarch of Rome.
Isn't it a wonderful career where you can say that 69 is relatively young?
Yes, yeah. That is very good, especially when you're in your 60s. Anything 60 is young. Yes.
All right, so let's jump in, and please, once again, bear with me because I'm playing producer, host, and tech. Quite a lot of juggle tonight, but we start off with a $10 super chat from Thelonious, and
Thank you.
I saw him put this in to one of our debuts, our YouTube premieres, and it is an essential question, as he says, 100 men versus one gorilla. Who wins?
This was a I saw this on a short or something like
It's
that.
a meme that's been going around for the last couple weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's a comedian that Terry and I watch fairly regular. We're watching comedians on Dry Bar, and Dry Bar is great because they're all clean comedians, so we don't have to listen to curse words or kind of inappropriate situations. Really, really great comedy. One of them is a guy named Sebastian. I can't remember his last name, and he shows a clip of the video, and then at the end he goes, "Really? Is this now what we're arguing about?" so
So what's your answer?
100 men in a gorilla?
Yeah.
I don't
I'm
you
putting
know
my money on 100 men. I mean, I'm thinking, well, it depends. Are we, I guess it depends. Are we talking about the men who took down woolly mammoths, who took down whales? Not that I approve of that. Or are we talking about Starbucks customers? So, no
Nope,
offense.
I'm gonna go with the Bruce Lee analogy that if they attack the gorilla one at a time, the gorilla's gonna win.
Well, that's the thing. One at a time. I'm thinking all at once. Coordinated effort. It's going to be 100 men.
Okay.
All right. Matthew Johnson with $5. Christos Anesti, Father.
Alithos Anesti.
Alithos Anesti, Father, your sermon about the cross was one of the most inspiring things I've heard in a long, long time. Such an important message.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've not to go too long, but and I appreciate that. Thank you very much for that commentary. And I've gotten some mixed reviews on that. Some reviews are it sounded it sounded too holy roller, too Protestant. That I'm why am I taking on the New York Times? And it wasn't about the New York Times. It was more about that we have allowed ourselves to not respond to critical attacks on our faith. We have to respond back to say that it is inappropriate to use these are not just symbols of faith. These are important important aspects of salvation in terms of how they relate back to our Lord and Savior. And so, obviously, the New York Times and all the papers can write whatever they want. I mean, that's freedom of speech, but that doesn't relieve us of our obligation to have freedom of speech to rightly correct how our religious capital S symbols should be viewed.
Well said. Well said. We have Cooking with Biba again. Good evening, all, and a blessed feast day of Holy Apostle and Evangelist Mark. Happy name day to all who celebrate. Happy name day.
Yes.
Question: why do most, if not all, Orthodox icons, whether of Christ, the Theotokos, or the saints, tend to depict solemn or stern facial expressions, even during joyful events such as the wedding at Cana or the resurrection? Why are joy and celebration not portrayed more visibly in the expressions? And if I may add, Father, I think we've discussed one of your favorite icons, which is a very rare icon, one of Jesus laughing.
Oh yes, it's not an approved icon. It's just happens to be a wonderful drawing.
Your favorite non-approved icon.
Non-approved icon. So, but in answer to the question, so the different from how Catholic icons are drawn, where there is there's not so an emaciated a look. The idea that is supposed to come across is that a Christian life is a sober life and is a difficult life. It's an ascetic life and it's a difficult life, and that's shown through the icons. Okay, and so as much as, yes, we appreciate the joy of the resurrection, we appreciate the joy of Jesus Christ's gift of salvation, we still have to stress the fact that and remind people that the Christian life is a sober life. It's a joyful life, but it is a very difficult and ascetic life. And the martyrs and the saints of the church have demonstrated that because of the way that they've lived.
All right, we have a question from Yanni from Brazil. Hello, Yanni. Christ is risen.
And well, actually, I'm gonna say it in Spanish, but he's gonna understand me anyway. Christos has resucitado. So, Yanni, it's always great to hear from you.
Now you have to learn that in Portuguese, given our Brazilian audience.
Yes, I got that's right. I'm gonna have to. It's probably close, but I'll get that in Portuguese.
All right, Father Bless, I'm at class right now. Do you think that the American Peruvian Bishop of Rome, Pope Leo, can strengthen the ties between the Roman Church and the Orthodox Church? Thank you. And I think you kind of touched on that, but if you can elaborate.
It's and certainly we're going to have to wait and see, what his views are and the direction that he's looking to take the Catholic Church. If the Catholic Church continues, to move, I don't want to say away from tradition, but is how I want to say this. If they will bow to, let's say, societal pressure in an attempt to be more modern, I think that could be a dangerous thing. The idea of the churches is to preserve the Christian tradition, and sometimes we can get lost in that and see it more as being more friendly to modern traditions, and that can be a very dangerous viewpoint. So we're going to have to wait and see what his viewpoints are. But our prayers, as I said at the beginning, are that he will that we will continue to have that relationship between Constantinople and Rome.
All right. From Marcello, I have read that some Orthodox monks have practiced forms of self flagellation, such as striking themselves to stay awake during long night vigils, or as an act of penance. Is this actually a part of Orthodox ascetic tradition, or is it considered extreme or even inappropriate within Orthodoxy?
Well, so my experience from Mount Athos and my experience here in the States and in Greece visiting monasteries, I have not once ever seen any behavior that resembles that in Orthodoxy. Not once. And then I just finished a book that one of our listeners from St. Petersburg, from Russia, gave to me to read, called Everyday Saints, and it chronicles the life of a Russian a young Russian man who was born into the communist state and then converted very early on to Orthodoxy and then became a monk. And he takes you through his life with many monks, and Russia is one of the more, if I can call, severe expressions of monasticism, and not once in his book does he talk about anything like that. So this is a concept that, as much as I have seen, is foreign to the Orthodox tradition, and so I would agree that it is inappropriate to the Orthodox tradition.
All right, where's Presbytera when I need her to help me with the Gaelic? I will do my best. Lafroig fan.
Uh-huh.
Father Angelo, did I hear you say you took classes with Metropolitan Gregory I in the past? He's the bishop over at my diocese. ACROD, the ACROD. What does that stand for, Father?
Uh, if it's Bishop Gregory, he is the bishop of the Carpatho-Russian Church. I believe that's in Pennsylvania somewhere, and Terry's going to correct me if I'm wrong here. So he was. So yes, he was. It was a classmate of mine. He was I think he was either a junior or a senior when I got to seminary. So we had about a year or so crossover, and wonderful man, and very warm, very inviting, good with people. So I think he was a great pick for the to become the bishop.
Yeah, they went
So
on.
yes, I did go to school with him.
They went on to say I got to meet him a couple of times. He has such a booming voice, but is really nice.
Yeah, and booming and and he's got a low register voice too. So that's pretty good too.
A natural baritone. I bet.
Yes.
From Karen Hicks, what is a proper donation for an adult baptism? I have asked and been told whatever you feel. Thank you.
So and again, you're absolutely right. That's and rightfully so. When people ask me, that's the first answer that I give them. But I just from the show, what I would say, typically, what is given to the priest as as we would say in Greek, a tichiro, a thank you, is anywhere between $50 and $100 is typically what the thank you is.
All right, from PF Stats, does Father say that many saints, even the Pope, call anyone that says for universal authority in the church is the Antichrist? Isn't it improper to call the holy people crazed, as you did in a video? I don't remember you saying that anybody's crazed in particular.
So
But
I'm trying to
I
think of.
think I think it was the a recent sermon where you talked about some of the more fundamental sides of Orthodoxy.
Oh, um, so if I'm thinking about if I'm thinking about this the same thing here, okay, there is what I said is that on YouTube when you're watching
Oh, yeah,
um,
that's right. That's right.
when you're watching things about orthodoxy, I was talking about the show, and I was saying that you're going to hear voices that are liberal, and you're going to hear voices that are very conservative and can and border on or are, I don't say border, they are a very fundamentalist view. And what we try to do on our show is we try to take the center or moderate position where the vast majority of Orthodox are. And what I said was that there, in some of the fundamental Orthodox videos, they will say things that are inappropriate, like calling certain, the Catholic Church or the Pope, and call them the heretics or antichrist, and so that is in no way an orthodox position, because what it does is it defines the boundaries of grace of God. And so that's an inappropriate statement to make. We can criticize what their some of their theologies, and their maybe and some of their actions. Like we can say that we don't believe in original sin for this reason. We don't believe in the assumption the Immaculate Conception of the Virgin Mary for this reason. Okay, but to take that next step and to call them heretics, or to call them the Antichrist, then that is inappropriate. So
Uh,
I think that's what I was mentioning.
And as far as I know, there aren't many saints at the moment that have YouTube shows.
Um, uh, Correct. And I don't recall. We'd have to look that up, but I don't recall saying that the saints were crazed.
No, no, you did not.
But I mean, I did say that there were some crazy things coming out of YouTube for Orthodoxy. I probably did say that.
That will be interesting as a thought that perhaps 50 years from now, if not sooner, there might be somebody that is ordained as a saint that had a YouTube presence.
Yeah, that could right. That could happen. I mean, there are certainly then and my favorite word. There certainly is now a plethora of Orthodox that are on YouTube.
All right, KED, Saint Leo the 14th, Pope until no, sorry, Saint Leo the 9th, Pope until 1054. Was he the Orthodox Pope too? The schism wasn't until 1054. So how come the Orthodox stopped having popes? Or who were all those guys who were popes before the schism?
So again, Pope is a in the essence of church history. The title of Pope is a fairly recent innovation. So they were, we people use the phrase Pope, but that's not the phrase that was used pre schism, and even to some degree after schism. The term Patriarch of Rome or Patriarch of Alexandria was the term that was common then.
All right. From Athena K. Monks talk about demons causing issues for them. What is the worst a demon can do to a person? Death? And if so, then why are they free? Or what corrupt? Then they ignore them? How do they leave? It's kind of a lot there.
Wow. Okay. Um, so
So, what is the
uh,
worst a demon can physically do to a person? Can they cause you to die?
no. So the answer is that physically, there's nothing that they can do to you. So the only thing that they can do is they can certainly tempt you to
Self-harm?
disobey or to look away from the will of God. Okay,
But they can tempt you
but
to self-harm, right? Like they'll tell you to commit suicide, tell you to cut yourself, etc.
yes, yeah. So they can't physically do it, but they can bring you to the point of despair that you think that that is the appropriate action, but in the end it is you performing the action. So demons don't have that type of power. um, and in fact of why they're here, they have as Christ says that they're at this point in time he is the prince of the world, but Christ has already said that his power has been defeated. Okay, but he still continues to reign until then the second coming.
So how do the monks get rid of them, or how do we get rid of them if we're being plagued by demons?
Well, how the monks get rid of them is through a life of constant prayer. They follow Jesus Christ's example, which is when he was tempted in the desert, he never engaged in a dialogue with the demons nor with Satan. All right, and so although it seems like there's a dialogue there, and we have Satan now saying, "Hey, take all of this," his response is always of a biblical nature, but it's not addressed to him. He's making a statement. So the way the monks behave is that they never allow the thought or the temptation to grow any kind of roots, and so that's their weapon. But that demands a spiritual strength, and that demands a constant battle. Okay, and that's their sole and entire focus. Unfortunately, us living in the world, we are bombarded by other things. We're bombarded by our spouses, that we have we're responsibility to our spouses, that we have children, that we have jobs, that we have sports and things. So we are bombarded by many things. So it's easier for the demons to offer temptation to us because we are engaged in this material world, and it's very difficult for us to be removed. It's not impossible, but we fall more often because we are more subject to those temptations,
So
because we don't have that ability to spiritually perfect. We
so
can grow, but we can't perfect.
so just to kind of put a cap on this, all those popular media depictions of demons attacking people and they end up with claw marks on their back, that kind of thing, that's fiction or fantasy.
So there is the idea of stigmata, but that doesn't necessarily come from. I don't think that comes from demons. But I have not. I've certainly heard that they can torment you in a very frightful way. But the actual physical harm, I'd have to see documented evidence of that.
All right. Matthew Johnson, Christos Anesti.
Alithos anesti.
Did everyone see Father Angelo's incredible sermon the other day about the cross?
Wow, thank you very much. I appreciate that. That's great.
Isaiah Gooden, what is the Orthodox view on surrogate pregnancy using others' eggs, artificial insemination, and contraceptives?
So let's start with the easy one first. There is no Orthodox. What's the word I'm looking for? When you're not against something, a prohibition. There's no a solid Orthodox prohibition against family planning, meaning the use of condoms. So what the Orthodox Church is against is refusing to have children. Okay, so that inhibits God's plan. But the Orthodox Church doesn't have anything that says that you you want to plan that properly. Like, let's say you both want to finish up schooling, or you want to have you want to have at least a stable environment, that you have a home. You can't use that excuse forever, okay? But in terms of family planning, the Orthodox Church doesn't have any problem with that. Moving on to the situation of surrogate mother, the problematic there is that the Orthodox Church rejects any third-party entrance into the marital union, and that's what surrogate motherhood is you have a third party that enters in. All right, so it should only be between the couple, between the husband and the wife. All right, there are other avenues that are opened up. The other reason for the issue with surrogate mother, and I've been exposed to this on a couple of occasions, is that there was a situation where the surrogate mother decided that she did not want to offer the child to the family, and so they ended up in court, and it became a very, very psychologically distressing situation for all parties. So you can it can cause some psychological and depressive issues. So those are the two reasons why we do not support surrogate motherhood.
And the other one was artificial insemination.
So is that test tube?
No. It's I don't know how I can describe this on YouTube very fast, but where the
Is it? So it has to remain between the husband and the wife, so there can't be an intervening third party. That's the issue.
I think that explains it pretty well. And I should just point out real fast that when we talk about family planning, a lot of people for many, they lump abortion into that, and that is not in the equation here.
That is certainly not part of the equation. That is correct. Right.
Justify X. Father, I've seen so many opinions about this. Is smoking tobacco a sin, aka cigarettes and stuff? I've seen it as a sin list in my prayer book, but I've heard other stuff also. I don't smoke myself.
So I can't, if you go to if you go to Greece or you go to Russia, I mean, you're going to see a lot of priests smoking. Okay, now that doesn't condone the behavior.
Cigarettes.
What did I say?
I'm just clarifying. You're talking.
Oh, clarify. Oh, yeah, smoking cigarettes. Right. Okay. And certainly, I know quite a few priests that also really enjoy cigars. The bottom line really is that any abuse of the body is considered a sin. Okay, and that can cover a wide range of things. That can cover gluttony. That can cover masturbation. That can cover promiscuous sex. That can cover drinking, drugs. So any abuse of an improper use of the body, all of that can fall into the category of sin, right? Now again, smoking, is I have seen or not seen. I've been told by some of my parishioners that when they've gone to the monastery and asked them, or confessed to in the monastery, some of those monks have told them and given them a penance because of their smoking. So it is seen in the monastery as a sin. But I haven't seen, or I don't know of any Orthodox priest in a parish that would offer a penance for smoking. They would say, as I would say, this is a habit that is dangerous to your health and that you should cease. So we would do it on a health basis, maybe not on a sin basis.
All right. So Miggs asks to follow on Isaiah's question, and the question was about surrogate pregnancy, artificial insemination, contraception. Does the Orthodox Church need answers for the Church on these matters and similar matters, or should each part of orthodoxy generate their own response to such matters?
Well, I mean, to some extent, right now, that's what they're doing. We are not the Catholic Church, so we don't have a position paper on modern social issues. All right, we have writings. We have a great book that was published by the Patriarchate on the Orthodox stance on modern social issues and trends. Okay, but that's not a canon of the church. Okay, so you are going to have varying opinions on certain aspects of social issues, and we don't really have canons that address that. So we have a number of people, like the patriarch, like the patriarch, like the archbishop, like many of our bishops who have commented on this and have written about this, but that is not an official Orthodox position. It is their position as a senior Orthodox clergy. So
Uh,
it's a difficult thing. So in some instances and in some ways, you are correct that we don't have a unified position on many social issues.
All right, and real quick to those of us who joined late, as you can see, this isn't the normal type of show. Father is on the road, and well, we can't let him have 1 week free. We still need him, need him to do the show. um, so we will be going a little bit shorter, but we're gonna try to get to as many questions as possible. So we have Richard Rudolph in, who says, "My children Lynn and Richard say they love you, and ask when we can start doing prostrations again. They enjoy it." And I'm just gonna be adding that we're filming the next two virtual Sunday schools next week, so look forward to those coming up soon.
They asked
When they
uh,
can start
uh,
doing prostrations again.
oh, so first off, Lynn and your dad,
Richard.
confess honesti. So Christ is risen. And if we're talking about, I mean, a prostration can be done at any time, but kneeling during the consecration, we will not do that until the kneeling prayers are read at Pentecost.
All right, we have a couple of questions about, well, no, some feedback about the Gorilla versus 100 Men. I'm just gonna read a couple. Set a Man One says, depends on who the men are. If it's Tarzan or Chuck Norris, you're gonna need 100 gorillas. 100% agreed. Others said gorilla. Patty said gorilla. Smoky Kentucky Piper says gorilla grabs the first men and unalives the other 99 with him. Oh, that's an interesting. And more thumbs up about your recent sermon. KED is in with a $20 super chat. Thank you so much.
Thank
I
you. Thank you again.
I binge watched your Orthodox virtual Sunday school videos. Well,
I didn't know that was a thing.
yeah, we'll do it again. Keep them coming, and tell everyone on the stream about them. They are awesome. Thank you. Well, you're very, very welcome.
Yeah. And I'm glad that people are appreciating them in the light in which they were meant to be presented. These are difficult topics that we want to present in an entertaining way that is both serious, but at the same time speaks to a kid that they can enjoy it. So are they theological treaties? Absolutely not. Are they is there some theology there, that wasn't explained exactly right? Of course. But again, the audience is children, and we just want to make sure that we make something entertaining, but at the same time get the important elements of the Christian faith to our children.
If you want to start, I'd recommend, my personal favorite is one that we designed to be the first one in the series, Who or What is God? That's I particularly like that one. All right, Chasa. Why does the ecumenical patriarch need so much money in going to him? Reports admitted he got 15 million to make the UOC versus the Russian patriarch. Shouldn't more Orthodox know this? And just there's
Um,
a clarification about the Ukrainian division, and without the money, he would not have done it.
He would not have done.
I'm just reading as is. Well, let's
Oh,
let's back up to the early parts. The ecumenical patriarch. Why does he need so much money and 15 million to make the UOC versus the Russian patriarch?
so uh, now, I can't say everything that he does, but a large portion of those funds are dedicated to making improvements to existing Orthodox churches and increasing Orthodox presence around the world. So, like, we have an increasing presence, obviously, in Africa, in South America, and so there's aid and help that he offers to them. At the same time, he attends many important global conferences, whether they're on global warming or environmental impacts, or even the idea of immigration into other countries. And so our patriarch is very active in those, and and bringing his staff and all that is not cheap. So he's very, very active in the world, and so he supports the advancement of orthodoxy in a lot of these other countries globally around the world, but then also uses it so that he can bring the voice of orthodoxy to different places. And all of those things do cost. Plus, he has to maintain the facility that is there in Constantinople.
Michaelis 9, Christos Anesti, Father.
Alithos anesti.
Any advice to deal with feeling being treated unfairly or given an unfair hand by God compared to your peers? Logically, I know I should be grateful, but the heart hasn't caught up.
So it's difficult often to understand God's will, because God's will is his own will, and sometimes he reveals that will to us, and other times he does not reveal that will to us. What often happens, and at least has personally happened to me, is that much later, when I look back in Revelation, I understand how his will was uh, uh, the word I'm looking for, how his will came about, what his will was. Okay. In other things that are very difficult, like losing a child, we'll probably not know what God's will is in those cases. All right. So it could be things like it drives a parent, or it drives a sibling to switch a career such that they go and help others, whether it's medically, or whether they help them with social issues, or whatever it is. So sometimes those deaths manifest themselves in terms of what the rest of the family then changes course and does something else with their life. Okay, but oftentimes we are faced with situations where we feel that we have been treated unfairly and we've been treated unjustly. Okay, and that's not uncommon. I've felt that several times in my life. All right, but from a Christian perspective, now I'm able to look at that and understand that, and I hate to say it this way, but that that life is unfair. And there are certain times in my life where I was denied certain opportunities that I thought I really wanted, and then when I look back on it, it turns out that those that being denied those opportunities actually was for my benefit. So it is important, as difficult as it is important for us that that we strive to do what we think is right. But if obstacles are put in our way, then maybe those obstacles are put there to say that we should be taking a different direction. When we fight that feeling and say, no, this my will be done, then we tend to have this idea that we've been treated unfairly. So I'm not saying that we should just sit back and wait for things to happen. No, advance. Do what you think is right. Pursue your career, pursue married life, pursue studies, pursue whatever it is. Okay, but if it doesn't turn out or obstacles come in your way, then you have to stop and say, okay, maybe then the will of God is pointing me in another direction.
All right, Biblical Shock's question is a research question. We'll get back to that next week. Alicia Richards, if we're going to be held accountable for every word we speak, how much talking or conversation out in the world or at our secular jobs is too much? How do we find the right balance?
Boy, there's a great question.
If more than 5 people tell you to shut up in a day, you may be talking too much.
So, um, you know, there's a and again, I think Terry's going to correct me here, but there's this wonderful carved stone that we got, I believe, from one of the monasteries, and it says, oh, I'm trying to remember now that it says. Don't use words, be a witness, meaning that it's more important to, many times it's more important to be silent. All right. So we should, I think what we need to do, and I'm guilty of this too, is we need to spend more time listening to others. And we tend to spend a lot of time, because of our pride, wanting to speak more often. And from personal experience, it takes quite a bit of effort to be quiet. There's things I want to say and I want to talk, and when it gets down to it, I want to say it not because I want to pass along information, but because I'm prideful and I want people to hear what I have to say. So I really fight to spend more time not talking and then listening. Now, if somebody then asks me, what do you think about this? Then that's appropriate. Okay. But when I'm constantly providing information that nobody has asked for, that's a time when we may have to back up a little bit and just focus on just being more quiet and being more cautious about when we talk, and then certainly what it is that we say.
That must be an extra challenge for you, being that you have for by Thursday accounts alone, you have a weekly talk show.
Yes. So, and the great thing about having this talk show is that I am forced to be succinct in what I say. I can't. Demos will not let me speak for hours on end about a topic. So this show is very helpful to force me to consider and think about what are my responses to your questions in a succinct manner.
I do my best.
Mm-hmm.
Brazilac123, Father Bless. Which calendar online do you recommend to check which fast days are on oil and which fast days are on water? Depends if it's a fast day that changes every year.
Well, so the first answer to the question is the best one that I've seen that has all the information that you need is right on the Archdiocese, the American Greek Orthodox website. Their calendar is awesome. It's got everything that you need. It's got all the feast days. It says wine, wheat oil. It says wine, oil, fast free, all of that. Okay.
What's the, because I can't, unfortunately, I'm not in a position to type at the moment. Is that what's the URL for that?
I think it is. It's goarch.org.
So GOARCH.org.
.org.
All right.
And then I guess a commentary. I am. I would. As most of you probably know. I'm not a fan of the water fast. I mean, I don't see anything in the canons that tells us that we have to fast from water. Water is an essential requirement. Fast from food, I can understand that, but I don't really see why we should be fasting from water.
All right, Alex Ditter. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Why do you feel there is no. Wait, let me rephrase. Why do you feel there is a need for an afterlife? Why can't there just be nothing?
The the it has nothing to do with me. So it's not that I want an afterlife, ergo I have created it. It's a reality, it's an existence. God as the creator has established creation. Part of his creation is the immortality of his image and likeness, which is us. So it's not that I'm lonely and I want an afterlife. God, the creator, has established it, and I get the benefit from it. So I think the question is directed in the reverse manner. So God exists. It is his will that his image and likeness have immortality, and thus we are granted immortality.
Seattle Rob, who earlier asked if we accept questions. We accept questions. If you're new to this show, you're watching for the first time, feel free to ask a question. We accept practically everything. Seattle says, I am a recent catechumen. Congratulations. Attending now for 8 months. My question is in regards to toll houses. Respectfully, it is an idea I find troubling and lacking biblical support in my limited knowledge. However, I just learned both my priests support this concept. I find this a little stumbling for me. Is there biblical support? I realize it is not dogma, but I feel uncomfortable citing against my father. And I just should real quick point out, if you look at our Greek Orthodox 101 series, we did a recent, fairly recent, 5 videos ago, episode about toll houses. Father?
And also I have a position paper that I wrote that's available online. So what I can tell you is that I am in 100% agreement with you that I find it troubling. There is there is a there is an attempt to coerce biblical support for this, for toll houses. I am not in support of toll houses in any way. Okay. Because it undermines Christ's salvific activity. So I'm 100% on board with you. If you're if you're and I know that there are definitely Orthodox priests who absolutely believe that toll houses is uh, valid
Yeah.
a valid doctrine. Okay. uh, but read my position paper, and there is also several bishops out there who have written against toll houses because of the fact that at its core it undermines the salvific gift that Jesus Christ has given to us. So I'm on board with you.
I believe the video has a link to the paper.
Oh,
If
okay.
not, we have published it after the video, so if it's not, I'll link it tonight so you can see it. But the video is a good summation of that paper. Um, but what do you do? I know that we're running out of time, but I do wanna ask this part of Seattle's question, in that the being uncomfortable citing against their father. How do you deal with that?
Well, it's not salvific. So if the priest decides that this is something that he wants to believe, okay, but you are under no obligation to accept that as doctrine. It's not in the canons of the church. It is not a dogmatic statement that the Orthodox Church has made. If you choose not to believe it, as I have chosen not to believe it, then there's really no argument. You can't be forced to believe it. It doesn't place you outside of salvation to not believe it. If the priest decides that that's what he wants to believe in, then that's his prerogative. But it certainly so what I'm saying is it's not an issue. He it can't be a stumbling block to your salvation, meaning that you cannot be forced to believe it so that you can become Orthodox.
All right, Randy Johnson. There is only one Orthodox church in my country,
Wow, in
which
your country,
is
okay.
Romanian. The
Okay.
liturgy is full Romanian, so I don't understand anything that
Yeah.
is being said. The priest told me he can get me some sort of books with translations of the liturgy. I am the only native attending the church every Sunday, so I don't expect them to start doing the liturgy in my native language. But would it be wrong of me if I tried to translate the liturgy into my own native language? I am only an inquirer at the moment.
No, no, and you don't even have to translate it because I'm sure that I have sources, or that priest may have resources that there are, just like there are Greek English liturgy books. There are also then Romanian English liturgy books.
All right. And let us know what country you're in, and we're
Yeah,
curious.
send us an email and let me see if we can help you out.
Yeah. The email is in the description of this video. Seattle Rob has a $5 super chat.
Thank you. Thank you
We
very
just
much.
answered his questions about toll houses. He says, "Thank you, Father." And a follow up: why does the diocese not make a ruling on toll houses?
Well, because again, without a synod, without a holy synod, you know, it's really at the discretion of each bishop, because it's not doctrine of the church. Some will say it is, but like I said, it's not been codified in any way. So that's what's tough about Orthodoxy. A bishop can speak about it, okay, but that doesn't make it doctrine. And there's many things, and we've had this question earlier too. There's many things that the Orthodox Church has not codified in terms of modern social issues and trends. Okay, and toll houses is unfortunately in that category. That we don't have, we don't have a unified position on some of these things, and it's something that we need, but I just don't see it forthcoming in any time soon.
Dumb Turtles asks, can a man with an inclination... Oh, it just jumped on me. One moment there, Mr. Turtles. Can a man with an inclination to be gay be a priest or join the clergy?
Yes, of course. Hmm. Yep. The inclination is the temptation, but it is the action that would place you outside of the clergy. But no, the inclination does not stop you from becoming clergy.
All right. I have a couple of second questions here, and because we're a little bit limited for time because of the unusual sense in which we're doing this week's show, I'm gonna skip to some new questions. And if we don't get to your question, hang on to them and we'll get back to it next week. Because I noticed Alex Dieter is asking some very, very important questions, I think. So if we please save them and come back next week, I'd like to answer them. Nick P. A few days before my a few days before my grandmother died, she told my mom she saw people in white clothes in the room, but no one was there. My mom said another day she thought she was in bed with her deceased husband. Thoughts?
This is very common. I've had quite a bit of experience, and to say I've even seen it with my father when he was passing away. That it seemed like he was reaching for somebody or he was talking with somebody. So I've seen this many times. And I believe that this is God's gift to us, that we are being welcomed by those that have passed on and are providing us a sense of comfort. So I absolutely believe that in those in as the Greeks would say, the time of etimothanatos, which is the readiness for death, that we are, not every time, but that in certain circumstances when we are troubled, we are granted those visions, of people welcoming us into into the presence of our Lord.
Patrick Medin, how do the confession of people who are delusional? Let's say a person claims that he was in a war zone 2 days ago and did terrible things, but certainly he wasn't.
So it's there's really not a lot that you can do with that, other than that these are situations where they require more professional help, and that's not something that typically priests are able or even qualified to handle. So what we try to do is we try to offer them some professional help that would help them through that, because we don't want to be the enabler, that supports these, but at the same time, we don't want to become confrontational and say, no, you're not seeing anything. So there are certainly trained professionals who know how to deal with these things appropriately, and we try our best to guide them to those to that type of help.
Costa V asks, how is a patriarch chosen? Is it a vote of the Holy Synod?
Yes. So it's again that a minimum of 3 bishops must support the vote. So it's not done in the more glamorous style that a pope is elected. All right. So we don't have the white and black smoke and all that, but it's done in a very under what's the word I'm looking for, under uh, subdued. It's done in a much more subdued way. The Holy Synod meets, a listing of candidates is brought forward, and then the Synod votes, and then there you go.
Some Random Guy Part 2. Opinions, I like that name. Opinions on the new Pope. We're still kind of discovering him, and from my understanding, he was a complete long shot. He was a complete surprise. Nobody was expecting him to become Pope, so I'm still researching him myself.
So I'm sure that and again, I'm not saying that I'm not saying that I absolutely know, but because the churches came from the same source, I'd have to believe that a list of candidates had been is already exists.
Mm-hmm.
There's already an existing list, and that list is brought in. Okay, and then not one by one, whatever it is, they go through the candidates list, and then they look for the votes. So I would imagine that it happens very similar to the way that it happens in the Orthodox Church, but there just tends to be a little bit more fanfare with the Catholic Church than there does with the Orthodox Church.
Randy Johnson actually answered where he's from. He's in the Faroe Islands,
Wow.
a tiny country in the middle of the North Atlantic Ocean with only 50,000 people. You're blessed, even if it's Romania. You're blessed to have an Orthodox church.
No, that's great. So please send us, if you can, send us your address, and we'll help you get that Romanian English book.
Yeah. Email us that. Please don't post your personal address in the chat.
Yeah, right. Yes.
I'm just gonna throw that out there. We'll see what we can do to help you out, Randy. Greek 70s. What is the point of God making male and female to multiply? No, God can as many can as many as he wants out of rocks. Is it so Adam won't be alone? No, he was not alone, as he had God. So what was the point? You say that Adam needed a compatible partner, but it looks like men and women are not compatible at all.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that they're not compatible, but they're different. Okay, and this is why he says it's not good for man to be alone. But man is not God. It's not you can't have that human relationship.
It's not an equal partnership.
And it's not an equal partnership. The closest that we had was when God became flesh, and he was on earth, and we were able to interact with him. That's the closest that we could get. All right, but you know, man, just like God is expressed trinitarianly, because love directed at just one person is narcissistic, right? But God's love is shown through the Holy Trinity, meaning the relationship that they have. And I love the Greek term for this that was coined in the third or fourth century, which is perichoresis, which is this eternal dance of joy among themselves. So their love is not directed towards themselves, their love is directed to one another. If we are made in the likeness of God, then we desire that love. And that love has to come from someone that is equal but opposite to us, and that's female. That's why he couldn't find. That's why he couldn't find a partner among the animals, okay? Because they were not able to return to him. That they don't stand in opposition to him, and they cannot provide him the love that a human being needs.
All right. I'm gonna, because we're, like I said, today we're just gonna go for an hour, because I cannot count on the stability of these connections sometimes. But I want you quickly to end the show rewind to a couple of Alex's questions, because he had a response to the earlier afterlife question. His statement was, "I don't want to be going to an afterlife, so I don't really need to be saved." What are your thoughts on that, Father?
Well, the problem is that you don't have a choice. So you can't just wish God out of existence. So it it's an existence that is. So there's really no choice in the matter. Okay, so all of us will stand before our Creator. Now we have a choice to not believe that there is a God. Certainly, we have that choice, but that belief in no way makes God non-existent. So I can believe that a certain thing will not happen, but that doesn't mean that that thing is not going to happen, right? So in that sense, the reality is kind of out of your hands. So you can choose not to believe it, but in the end, you are going to face some judge. You're going to face an eternal life, okay? And we have to make a decision about which eternal life am I going to face.
Is the idea of non-existence a an a version of hell that the Orthodoxy believe?
So I'd go even further than that, because that was declared a heresy. The fact that I will cease to exist. I will no longer exist. That was declared a heresy,
Thank you.
because we are created to be immortal. Okay, and the question is, where will we spend immortality? But there were uh, there was clergy of the church and bishops who brought forth the idea that it is possible that we could be cast into non-existence, and that was declared a heresy.
All right, and lastly from Alex, why should the Bible have so much control over your life? It is pretty hard as it is life.
Well, okay, to some extent, I would believe that, because I would say that the Bible doesn't have control over your life. Christ has control over your life. We do not worship the Bible. We worship the living word, which is Jesus Christ. Okay. So everything is interpreted through Jesus Christ. Now it happens that the best that we have is Jesus's words recorded by the gospel writers. And so in that sense, we're not controlled by the Bible, but we receive our guidance from Christ, who is expressed through the writings of the fathers. But we are not controlled by the Bible. We worship now the living word.
All right, and finally, because this is kind of connected to this from Marv, which council or synod or whatever it was declared that I can't basically the idea of being cast into non-existence is a heresy. So,
Oh,
do you remember any specifics, or If it's a research, if you need to look it up, we can address it next week.
Yeah, I just have to. I thought I wrote it in my paper about heaven and hell.
So this is a challenge of Father not having that enormous library right behind him, and for us to make it a part of the bingo game, how many times he gets up. So that does bring us to the end of tonight's show. Once again, it is a bit of a protracted show, but Father is always insistent that no matter where he is in the world, he's going to continue to do a live show every week.
No, Demos is insistent that I will do a live show.
Hey, people need us.
Somebody's got to push the priest. That's good.
That's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here for. All right, everyone. Thank you once again. Make sure if you're new here to like, share, subscribe. If we didn't get to your question, hang on to it. We'll get to it next week. We're on live every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We look forward to more of your questions. And once again, if you didn't catch last week's episode, we celebrated achieving 25,000 subscribers. That is absolutely incredible. Thank you all who have supported us, who have participated in that. And make sure to catch the last 15 minutes for Father Angelo's Hot Sauce Challenge. He met the occasion, and we're just going to have to have a part 2 when we reach maybe 30,000 subscribers and maybe get something crazier.
Okay, yeah, you gotta step that up.
Hey, I bought one of them at a literal pharmacy, which I still don't understand. Still don't understand how that is, with the nurses warning me not to. And you gave it a 3 out of 10 on hotness scale? You're insane.
Well, you tried it. You said it wasn't that bad.
I did try it afterwards. I didn't want to do it during the show because I need to talk in case one of us can't. But
right.
I didn't think it was that bad. Maybe I can handle hot sauces better than I thought. So
yeah.
Maybe by 30,000, I will appear on camera with you and we'll do it.
Sounds good. Sounds good. I'm looking forward to it.
All right.
So again, everybody, thank you for tuning in tonight. It's always a pleasure to be here. I'm sorry I wasn't able to answer the research questions, but that's okay. We're coming back next week, and we'll entertain more questions.
Fantastic. Have a great night, everyone.
Christ is risen. Christos Anesti. See you all soon.
Alithos Anesti.